Doing today is what I call the glute extension on the back extension machine. So when you think of back extension, you will be thinking about the erectors doing most of the work. When you're doing the glute extension, what you're thinking about is the glutes doing most of the work. And I always say, and when I'm describing this to my clients, I always say that this is more like you're more hunched over whilst you're doing, hugging the weight, kind of like locking out the back, using just your hamstrings and glutes to go up. So in this video, I'm going to show you what a back extension looks like and what a glute extension looks like, and hopefully highlight to you the slight differences of when you're doing it. And then what I'll do is show you the different ways you can hold weight whilst you're doing it, and how it can affect like the lever of the motion or the movement for you. Both all going to be effective. I don't believe there's such thing as a bad exercise, but there may be something that feels a lot better for you. With the glute extension, for me personally, I've seen it being done with quite rapid speed. Personally, myself, I prefer this movement done at a much slower tempo. So if you've been taught this movement at a faster tempo, that is absolutely fine. But my preference is to teach this movement a lot slower so you can connect a lot better with the muscle. Extension. So I'm quite fortunate in this gym that this glute extension machine is quite long, and it can fit my whole body. My biggest issue with a lot of glute extensions that do exist is that they're not the right height for me because I'm so tall. So for me, this is actually quite a great one because I can actually get into it and fit into it. This is quite an old school one, and old school is always the best. The newer school ones are made for like 5-foot women. So when you're going into the glute extension, you're going to take your feet back and then you're going to duck your feet out. So when I say duck your feet out, I mean that your feet are going to be turned out to the side. If you kind of stand and you do that action, you actually feel laterally, right, that your glute medius just switches on ever so slightly more than when you're facing with your toes directly in front of you. So just try that. Just take your feet out ever so slightly so you can feel that kind of glute medius work. The same feeling is going to happen when you're on a glute extension machine. You're going to take your feet back onto the machine and then you're going to lean forward. So I'm now going to clip the camera and the microphone back onto my cap. So hopefully you can hear me and it's at the right sound. So you've got to measure yourself up to make sure it's the right height. I've already been on this machine, so I know it's the right height for me. I would probably argue this is a little bit too high up for me because when I bend over, I can't fully fold over. But this is the perfect setup though for a back extension. So let me turn this camera back. So it's the perfect position for a back extension. So in a back extension, you'll be here, and you'll come up, and you'll use your back to raise you up. It is locked out. Your hips and only your back can be worked. So this is a perfect position. It being a little bit higher up into the hips, perfect for a back extension. But that is not what we're doing today. We are doing a glute extension. So this needs to come down a little bit lower for me. So we're going to pull it and then adjust it. Again, this is going to be individual. So I'm going to come here. You see now I've got a little bit more freedom now on my hip. I'm now able to bend and fold a hell of a lot better than I did before. I'm pretty much able to kind of touch the floor without any restriction. Okay, so this is now perfect for me. This is now set up. See if I can get this hat on. Tap this down. So put my hat on, hopefully it'll stay on. So you're going to go onto the machine, we're going to turn our toes out. Then you see that my feet are straight here, and I'm going to duck my feet out to the side. My knees are now going to become ever so slightly softer, so I've got access to my hamstring. And when you're first doing it, I really just want you to like relax into the movement to become as floppy and as relaxed as you can. I want you to cross your hands over your chest, almost feeling like you're bringing your shoulders around and over. I want you to think about generating a force by squeezing your hamstrings into each other. So we're going to go here, and we're just going to squeeze into the hamstrings and then relax. You see that I moved up a little bit, so just squeezing my hamstrings. My back has not got involved, that's just my hamstrings, a little bit of glute now, and then relax back down again into the hamstrings. And I'm going to take this movement into a full contraction of the glute, and you can see how I'm going to rise, but you're going to see that this upper torso doesn't change in position. So we're going to go here, hamstrings, glutes, pushing into the bench for the output now, and then I'm going to relax down. Hamstrings, glutes, full squeeze, pushing into the bench, and relaxing down. Okay, what's that? Now talk about weight placement. So let's now talk about weight placement. So I'm going to be quite lazy. I'm going to be using a plate, but you can use a dumbbell, or you can use larger plates in your gym. I'm going to use this small 10 kilo plate to demonstrate what I mean, because it's small and it's easy and light. When you use a big plate, it ends up being quite clunky depending on the size of you, but I'm a big girl, so I can handle like holding big weights. So the first way that I'm going to show you, probably the way that you've seen it done more standardly, is almost like the hug and tuck of the plate, or of the dumbbell. And so when you kind of take the plate into that crossed position that we've actually created from before, and then you go through the movement. But the movement pattern and style doesn't really change much from what we've done or what I've taught already, okay? So with the plate, I would suggest with any weight, just start with the weight at the bottom. When the weight gets too heavy, remember, you can just let it go. You do not need to hold on to the weight to feel like you've completed the set. So you're going to get yourself into the machine, and remember, turning that toe out to the side. So your foot is going to go back. Turn those toes out, like in the bottom. Then you're going to come and reach down onto the bottom of the floor, taking the plate and taking it into your chest, like so. So into that cross position, keeping the core nice and tight. You're not using the back, squeezing the hamstring and the glutes, and bringing yourself in, keeping your chin tucked in, nice and tight. I like to go into like almost like full relax at the bottom, squeeze in, slight pause at the top, and then relax back down. What I don't like seeing is this action done as a swinging action, like I'm demonstrating, because I'm not using my glutes at all. I'm basically using my back, and this is now a back extension, and that's not what I'm looking for. The second way that you can do it, you can start with the arms basically being elongated, and you hold in the plates directly in front of you. Nothing really changes with the movement, but you almost feel like you can't come up as high because your hands aren't crossed over. Relaxing back down, you probably closer to touching the floor, and big squeeze up. I like this one because this replicates the feeling. I like this one because I feel like it replicates the feeling of like an RDL or hinged movement when you are doing it. Ooh. So give those a go and let me know how you find them in terms of holding the weight or the plate to your chest, or holding the weight down in front of you. Both are really effective for the hamstring and glutes, as long as you remember the cues. Have fun.